video as you guys come in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel. We're just going to do a quick live. We're going to do some breaking news, hot topics, trending topics. Give me a few seconds to get into my system, but like the video as you guys come in. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21. If you haven't checked out my shorts, go check out my shorts. It gives a lot of updates on trending news, hot topics news, and everything that's going on. Our shorts are doing extremely well. So are our lives. But it's great to have the shorts where you can update stuff. So we're gonna talk Trump, Bad Bunny. The Kardashians' lawyer spoke up and said everything that Ray J is stating is false, not true, and they are suing Ray J for defamation. What's going on with Ray J? Why would he make a claim like that and not having any type of proof or emails show that what's really going on with Ray J? Is Ray J okay? Is Ray J okay? So the Kardashians lawyers just speak out and say that they're tired of Ray J defaming them and they're suing Ray J. So there's that. We're going to go ahead and get into the hot topics, trending topics. Like the videos you guys come in. Thanks for being here. We're just going to do a quick live and talk about what's going on. So hit the subscribe button and let's get to it. All comments are alleged, period. All comments are alleged, period. Just give me a second to do my disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes of criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is used permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged in our opinion and for entertainment purposes only. We're also going to talk about the shutdown. There's stuff that's going on. We're also going to talk about that. So we're going to talk hot topics, trending topics. And people are concerned that if people try to attend the Super Bowl, if there's going to be concerns with people dealing with immigration. So we're going to get straight into the topics and we're going to go from there. So like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in. Here we go. We're going to go ahead and get into the clips and get straight into it. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Eligible for the healthcare subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their healthcare?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came in. Now, a lot of them have gone out. We have over 11,000 murderers. We got many of them out. Many of those people have been taken out of the country, brought back to where they came from. In some cases, put in prison because they're so dangerous. We don't want to take them out. We have to watch it. We don't want them coming back. But if you look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. right now, it is such a place. I just drove through it, and it's clean and nice and beautiful. And people are walking around, and they're not afraid of being mugged. We haven't had murders. We haven't had anything happen in a long time. It took us 12 days to make it very good. It took us 20 days to make it beautiful. And now we're going to Memphis. But I think we should always keep a presence here, because if we don't keep a presence, it's going to come back never like it was, because we got rid of 1,700 career criminals. You know what that is? One career criminal can give you a lousy reputation for danger, because they commit many crimes a day in some cases. But Washington, D.C. is an unbelievable example of what can happen. And now we're going, as you know, to Memphis, which was very similar to Washington, very dangerous. And we're there, and we're working along very well with the governor, the mayor. A lot of these Democrat mayors, you know what they don't want? They don't want to have us do well, because if we do well, it makes them look bad, and they shouldn't feel that way. If I were a Democrat, I'd be calling Trump. I'd say, get your troops over here, just help, because the mayor of Washington is getting a lot of credit for what we did.
Good morning, good morning.
But the beauty is, isn't it nice?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
You're not going to be mugged. You're not going to be hit. We had a meeting about 3-4 months ago, and I was saying to the media, how many of you people have been threatened or mugged or accosted during your walk to the White House? And they said, we don't walk to the White House anymore. This was, remember, Brian, almost everybody's, oh, look at this guy. They even attacked this big, strong guy, right? Didn't you get attacked? Did you? Yeah, just take a look at the other guy, right? What happened to the other guy? I don't know. Those other guys are pretty tough. They're tough with a gun in their hand, right? And yeah, you were hit pretty hard. But almost everybody was. And now, nobody. Anybody been accosted in the last 3 weeks? If I would have said that 6 months ago, half the heads would have been raised out. No, we have a very safe city now. The country's going to be safe. We're doing one at a time, and we'll be going to Chicago. I told you this, sir. Union Pacific, head of the railroad. He knows this country very well. Started off as a very low-rung employee of the Union Pacific. He's now chairman. He came to me and he said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going down fast. They had 11 people killed over the last couple of weeks. 11 people killed, 48 shot. That's not a city. It's a war zone. There's no city in the world like that. And then we have to listen to this Pritzker get up. I know him well. They threw him out of his business, and the family threw him out of the business because he's a loser. But we have to listen to Pritzker get up. He should call me and say, get the troops in. You ever hear that? 11 people over a week and a half killed. And I think it's 48, when you add it up, 48 people shot. And then I have to listen to a governor say how nice it is. It's a wonderful experience. Now, what is a wonderful experience is D.C. People are eating in the restaurants. They just opened 2 new restaurants, which hasn't worked in years. And we had it pretty good 4 years ago. We were just getting ready to do this, but we did it right. And, you know, we have a big victory in the Supreme Court. It's called merit. And so that includes the military. Our soldiers, did you see what they look like? These guys, they look like serious soldiers. They weren't playing games, and they went in there and they did a fantastic job. And Washington, D.C. is now a beautiful, safe city. The restaurants are thriving. The people are walking down the street holding their husband or their boyfriend's hand, and they're not worried about being raped or mugged or shot at. And it's been an amazing thing. And we'll do that in every city. We'll do them sort of one at a time. We'll do a couple at a time. And we have a tremendous force because, as you know, in recruitment numbers, when we put out 2 years ago, when Biden would put out recruitment, nobody would join. Nobody wanted to be in the military. Nobody wanted to be police. It was just announced this morning. You probably saw my speech over with the military, with the generals, admirals. Record numbers of people signing up for the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. I love Space Force. That was my baby. But we have record numbers of people signing up, and that includes police department, fire department. So, you know, it's been an amazing thing. Well, we're going to have another meeting next week on this. We have another great company coming in, similar kind of numbers. But we're going to show you some 1,000% drops in prices. There's never been anything like this in the history of medicine. And it's an honor. And Albert, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody behind me because you are a great team. We have a great team. Everybody says you have a great cabinet. It's a great team. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you.
So let's continue with the news. Like I said, that there's shutdowns going on. We're going to talk about the news and everything that's being talked about. Hold on. Like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in. We're going to get into a few different things, but like the video as you guys come in. Thanks for being here, everyone. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I hope everyone's having a great afternoon. Let's continue.
Gathered in Washington yesterday that he wanted to use U.S. cities as training grounds, partially started by Donald Trump's outrageous statements to several hundred generals from all over the world gathered in Washington yesterday that he wanted to use U.S. cities as training grounds. His words for the military was his striking low energy and rambling during his hour-plus speech. From the New York Times reporting on yesterday's address, quote, for a 79-year-old, he's often shown a great deal of energy, but a bit sapped Tuesday. As his remarks went on, his voice took on a more monotonous quality. A day earlier, when he spoke at the White House while standing beside Mr. Netanyahu, Trump sounded out of breath at times, end quote. And from the Washington Post, quote, Trump, who draws energy from instantaneous feedback, appeared to speak more slowly than usual and in a monotone, seemingly affected by a largely mum audience, end quote. It is true, the generals were a different type of audience. In a raucous MAGA Trump fest, military brass are not supposed to react to political speeches. They are supposed to remain apolitical, and they did. But Trump's demeanor has led to different questions, to questions about whether or not Donald Trump is unwell. Yesterday at this hour, as we were coming on the air in this hour, we started with Democratic Congresswoman Madeleine Dean. She joined us to talk about the government shutdown, but literally seconds before she came on the air, as we saw her getting ready in the shot on the wall, we saw a confrontation take place between the Congresswoman and Speaker Mike Johnson. And she confronted him about a lot of things. Frankly, all the things you want to see Democrats fighting for and saying to Republicans, she said and did. And one of them was Donald Trump's fitness. Watch what our cameras caught and note how his immediate response is not to say she's wrong about any of it. The president is unhinged. He is unwell. What are you doing?
On your side are too. I don't control.
Oh my God, please. That performance in front of the generals? That
I didn't see
is
that.
so dangerous. You know I serve on foreign affairs and appropriations. It's the collision of those two things. Our allies are looking elsewhere. Our enemies are laughing.
I just let
You
the
have a
speakers,
president who
I
you
just
have a
let
president who is unwell. A lot
Allegedly.
of folks on your side are too. Are also unwell. Okay. The speaker said he missed the speech. We know a lot of folks on that side tend to catch the program, so we put together a little highlight reel.
I've never walked into a room so silent before. That's enough to buy a lot of battleships, Admiral, to use an old term. I think we should maybe start thinking about battleships, by the way. You know, when I walk downstairs, like I'm on stairs, like these stairs, I walk very slowly. Nobody has to set a record. Just try not to fall, because it doesn't work out well. A few of our presidents have fallen and it became a part of their legacy. And it was really a stupid person that works for him mentioned the word nuclear. You can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words and you can't use either of them. But the firemen go up in ladders and you have people shooting at them while they're up in ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. And I said, don't talk about it much, but I think you have to. Our firemen are incredible.
What?
But I defended them anyway. One of our next guests, Tom Nichols, echoes what Congresswoman Dean brought up with the speaker, writing this in The Atlantic, that Trump, quote, is not okay. Quote, in 1973, an Air Force nuclear missile officer named Harold Herring asked a simple question during a training session. Quote, how can I know that an order I received to launch my missiles came from a sane president? The question cost him his career. Military members are trained to execute orders, not to question them. But today, both the man who can order the use of nuclear arms and the man who would likely verify such an order gave disgraceful and unnerving performances in Quantico. How many officers left the room asking themselves Major Herring's question? That question is where we start the hour with some of our favorite experts and friends. Staff writer at The Atlantic and a contributor to The Atlantic Daily Newsletter, Tom Nichols is here. Also joining us, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling is here. Also joining us at the table, former Assistant U.S. Attorney and President of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, Maya Wiley is here. Tom, I'm sure you heard from all sorts of your own sources. I heard from a couple of mine. And I was interested in the fact that this was the first issue they raised. I mean, of course, there's the objectionable line about our cities being training grounds. There was the whole Hegseth debacle, if you will. But the first thing my sources raised was how Trump seemed. And I wonder if that's what you heard, and that's what inspired the piece.
What inspired the piece was Trump. That as I was watching it in real time, and I was looking at the audience, and I've sat with and lectured to military audiences for most of my adult life. I just had to wonder what they were thinking because, you know, military officers don't go to MAGA rallies. Senior officers don't have a lot of time to sit and watch footage on cable news. And I think for most of them, this was the first time they'd really gotten a major helping of 180 proof undiluted Donald Trump and just had to sit there for almost an hour and just watch him. And I assume, you know, that, and I did hear afterwards that, you know, a lot of folks were like, he just doesn't seem well. He's not okay. I'm not a doctor. I'm not making a diagnosis. I'm saying as a layperson and a man of advancing years myself, that I looked at the president and I thought he's not okay. And that it's not just his physical demeanor. I mean, I think for too long, we haven't been willing to talk about the weird rambling, you know, what the president tries to call it the weave. It's not the weave. It is some kind of emotional disordered condition where he just can't hold a thought in his head. And I think when you're lecturing, speaking to 800 admirals and generals, that audience is going to notice it a lot more than the MAGA audiences at rallies who are looking at their phone or laughing or, you know, not really paying attention. And it just disturbed me, and I thought it was time to say something about it.
Big Pharma produces about 13 billion meds per year, but we're not worried about that right now.
Like the video, There's about 147 in the building. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button. What do you think about all the news that's going on? What do you think about all the news that's going on? Do you think Bad Bunny was a good decision to do the Super Bowl? Let me know in the comments. Good choice, bad choice. Isn't this the guy that was dating Kendall? Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Tom's right. I heard from quite a few of the folks that I used to serve with who were in the audience last night or yesterday, and heard some of the same thing, that it was meandering was the word that came up with one. And it seemed to be disconnected thoughts And I'd agree completely with Tom. When you know you're going into an audience of that kind of folk, the people who are the generals and admirals and their senior enlisted advisors, you know you got to be on your game. You got to talk straight. You really got to be precise in your language. In fact, that's one of the things I learned at the War College from a guy like Tom, saying, precise language is critical and communication is important when you get to the strategic ranks, because what you say is what people act on. One of the individuals that I talked to yesterday, last night, said that, and I know this guy, he likes to take very meticulous notes, and he was saying he gave up taking notes halfway through the speech because none of them were connecting and were not something he could take back to his troops. And that's sort of a sad thing to say when you're talking about the commander-in-chief.
Maya, let me just put out everything that's in the public record on this topic, because I think that's helpful. In 2017, then Republican Senator Bob Corker tweeted this, quote, "It is a shame that the White House has become an adult daycare center. Someone obviously missed their shift this morning." Bob Corker went on to introduce legislation to try to minimize or take away some of an American president's nuclear authorities. As a senator, the measure failed. In 2018, then writing as anonymous, but we've since learned that it was Miles Taylor, wrote this: "Given the instability many witnessed, there were early whispers within the cabinet of invoking the 25th Amendment, which would start a complex process for removing the president, but no one wanted to precipitate a constitutional crisis. So we will do what we can to steer the administration in the right direction until one way or another it's over." From 2017 until it ended, every reporter covering the White House had Signal and WhatsApp on their phone, because people inside the White House leaked all the time about the things that were happening. That is where the body of information came from, people inside the House. And I would say after the January 6th, after the insurrection, we heard Kevin McCarthy's voice on tape from two journalists who I think at the time were at Politico, talking about the 25th Amendment a second time. So I never heard it being discussed by senior people ever. For Trump, the first time around, there were two instances that became public where Republican allies talked about removing him from office using the 25th Amendment.
Well, I think this is one of the things that's so frustrating for many of us in this moment, which is we had a presidential election. We had that whole record that you just shared, Nicole. And then we had a presidential election where so much attention was being given to Joe Biden's age, what felt like equal time and attention to the capabilities of Donald Trump. That was very frustrating just as a matter of reporting, and that seemed very unbalanced. But I also want to go one step deeper, because we're talking about a level, and we heard the word earlier, unhinged, not just unwell, unhinged. And so it's both about what does it mean to have a president who has the capacity, the mental and other capacity to be a commander-in-chief. But we're also watching this unhinged, unwell person doing what I would consider to be an attempt at a propaganda walk in front of and using the nation's military leaders as a prop in that propaganda for a discussion that included things that were outwardly racist, that were suggesting that our war was with quote unquote inner cities, as we're watching crossing the red line, and something that is disturbing to many in the military about how we're even seeing them be used. So in addition to the nuclear codes, it's actually the way in which this is becoming propaganda to wage war on quote unquote enemies within, on us, on a man who just talked about the N-word not being able to use. I'm sorry, someone who has reportedly used the N-word, but has an administration now and a secretary who sees it as in their mission.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Let me know what y'all think. How did Bad Bunny even get that position to even try to do the Super Bowl? How did he get that? There's so many other people that can actually do the Super Bowl, but it was their choice. The Super Bowl numbers have been climbing. If you guys did not check out my shorts, go check out those short numbers in regards to the Super Bowl over the last several years. Like the video. She sounds mad. Who's mad? I don't care. my page, we cover it all. Who sounds mad?
Members on the Hill to try and come to a resolution to try to encourage them.
What are you even talking about? Nobody's mad. No one cares. You must be new to the page. I don't care who gets the Super Bowl. Who cares? If they want them, that's their business. Like the video, fair use reaction clip. We cover everything. Hot topics, trending topics. We cover everything. Let's continue. Have a great one. They've been blocked for 30. Let's continue with the news.
Morning, Caroline. How are you? Good. We're on day 2, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, of a government shutdown, President, Vice President, the entire team here will continue to work and talk to members on the Hill to try and come to a resolution.
Let's continue. Let me hold on 1 second. Like the video, be kind in the comments. I have no problem timing people out. Be kind
Well,
in
the
the
White House is now warning that mass layoffs of federal workers are imminent as the government shutdown drags on for a second day with no end in sight. President Trump is calling this an unprecedented opportunity. He's urging Republicans in Congress to use the shutdown to, quote, clear out dead wood and make cuts to the government. Listen to this.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut.
like the video, like the video.
I wanted this clause, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona is live to the government. Listen to this.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this clause, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona is live on Capitol Hill. Melanie, you have been following this shutdown since it was just a threat initially. How major could these federal layoffs be, and really which programs could President Trump have the power to target?
We are expecting these to be pretty significant. The White House press secretary said this morning she's expecting that number to be in the thousands. And Trump's budget director said on a conference call yesterday with House Republicans that those notices are going to start to go out as early as today, potentially tomorrow. As far as which projects could be on the chopping block, it's clear that the administration is targeting projects in blue states, at least so far, including a pair of really critical infrastructure.
Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. I cover the news. That's what I cover. Like the video as you guys come in. I cover the news. That's what I cover. Whether it's topics you like, don't like, we cover it all. And that's what matters.
It's time to make the favorite flatter.
Like the video, like the video. If you've been here, you know what I am. A person that covers the news.
Workers are now taking on the president, suing the administration to block plans to fire federal workers instead of furloughing them during the shutdown. It's something Trump mentioned again just last night.
When you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected. A lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want.
The lawsuit says Trump's threats are illegal and, quote, the cynical use of federal employees as a pawn in congressional deliberations should be declared unlawful. Eric Kelly, National President of the American Federation of Government Employees, joins me now. Take us inside your thinking, if you will. What's the legal argument?
Okay, thank you, Chris. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Well, it's another day. But, I truly believe that this mass firing of federal employees is illegal. It is definitely, we've been in this business of representing employees for 93 years, and we've never had any president to react to situations like this president. Even in the last administration, he didn't, because he knew that wasn't the proper thing to do. He knew it was illegal, and to come up now and say, we're going to use federal employees as pawns to, actually, I'm going to call it what it is, a shakedown, to posture themselves in negotiations against the Democrats. That's not right. That's not fair, and it's illegal when you start talking about the livelihoods of federal employees.
Well, I want to play for you what some federal employees have told us about this shutdown. Take a listen.
Of course, our guys are stressed. It's a high-stress job. We're looking for bombs, weapons, stuff like that, and you can't miss, right? So you don't want officers with added stress of, how am I going to pay my bills? I got to come to work and not get paid. It's ridiculous. It's a shame that the federal employees, again, are used as a pawn.
Can you give me some specifics about what you and your colleagues are hearing from the federal workers you represent?
We'll say, I'm hearing that they are absolutely tired. Every 6 months, these employees who are very patriotic employees, these are the people just like you show. These are the people that represent TSA, that are making sure that, the skies that we travel in are safe. These are people that make sure that the meat we eat is safe. And to have this added stress, it's not right, And so they're saying, why continue to stress out these employees that's trying to provide a service for the American people? It's not right, and it's detrimental to the services that they provide for the American people.
The Washington Post points out, Everett, that it's not just a short-term loss for people on furlough. Quote, White House officials this time have signaled plans to use the agencies as a way to vastly reshape the federal government and consolidate power under the presidency. Do you worry about that? But if that does come to pass, do you worry Democrats have actually played into Trump's hands?
Well, I'm not going to say they played it in Trump's hand. I'm going to say that I do believe that, this administration will try anything. I do believe that what they're trying to do is illegal. And we will continue to fight those things. What do I expect? It's hard to say. This administration has came after federal employees over and over and over again. But I will say this, you don't put out fires by using gasoline. So this shakedown is not going to do anything. I think that people need to come to the table, resolve those differences, and put the federal government back to work.
Everett Kelly, good luck. Thank you.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. I know many people are just now coming in regarding, like the video as you guys come in.
Eligible for the healthcare subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their healthcare?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came. And now a lot of them have gone out. We have over 11,000 murderers. We got many of them out. Many of those people have been taken out of the country, brought back to where they came from. In some cases, put in prison because they're so dangerous. We don't want to take them out. We have to watch them. We don't want them coming back. But if you look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. right now, it is such a place. I just drove through it, and it's clean and nice and beautiful. People are walking around, and they're not afraid of being mugged. We haven't had murders. We haven't had anything happen in a long time. It took us 12 days to make it very good. It took us 20 days to make it beautiful. And now we're going to Memphis. But I think we should always keep a presence here, because if we don't keep a presence, it's going to come back never like it was, because we got rid of 1,700 career criminals. You know what that is? One career criminal can give you a lousy reputation for danger, because they commit many crimes a day in some cases. But Washington, D.C. is an unbelievable example of what can happen. And now we're going, as you know, to Memphis, which was very similar to Washington, very dangerous. And we're there, and we're working along very well with the governor, the mayor.
We're not spending $30 a day in
what they
food.
don't want to have us do well, because if we do well, it makes them look bad, and they shouldn't feel that way. If I were a Democrat and I was a governor or mayor, I'd be calling Trump. I'd say, get your troops over here, just help, because the mayor of Washington is getting a lot of credit for what we did. A lot of credit. But the beauty is, isn't it nice? Seriously, you walk down the street, you're not going to be mugged. You're not going to be hit. We had a meeting about 3-4 months ago, and I was saying to the media, how many of you people have been threatened or mugged or accosted during your walk to the White House? And they said, we don't walk to the White House anymore. But the answer was, remember, Brian, almost everybody's, look at this guy. They even attacked this big, strong guy, right? Didn't you get attacked? Just take a look at the other guy, right? What happened to the other guy? I don't know. Those other guys are pretty tough. They're tough with a gun in their hand. And you were hit pretty hard. But almost everybody was. And now, nobody. Anybody been accosted in the last 3 weeks? If I would have said that 6 months ago, half the hands would have been raised out. No, we have a very safe city now. The country's going to be safe. We're doing one at a time, and we'll be going to Chicago. I told you this, sir. Union Pacific, head of the railroad. He knows this country very well. Started off as a very low-rung employee of the Union Pacific. He's now chairman. He came to me and he said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going down fast. They had 11 people killed over the last couple of weeks. 11 people killed. 48 shot. That's not a
I'm
it's,
paying the
it's a
car
war zone.
payment, the
There's no
car
city in the
insurance.
world like that.
Anytime I
And
ask
then we
you
have to
for
listen
help
to this
with the
Pritzker
car,
get
you
up. I
don't
know
help
him
me.
well. They threw him out of his business, and the family threw him out of the business because
I'm
he's a
spending more time
loser.
and money than
But
you
we have to
are.
listen to Pritzker get up. He should call me and say, get the troops in. You ever hear that? 11 people over a week and a half killed, and I think it's 48, when you add it up, 48 people shot. And then I have to listen to a governor say how nice it is. It's a wonderful experience. Now, what is a wonderful experience is D.C. People are eating in the restaurants. They just opened 2 new restaurants, which hasn't worked in years. And we had it pretty good 4 years ago. We were just getting ready to do this, but we did it right. And, you know, we have a big victory in the Supreme Court. It's called merit. And so that includes the military. Our soldiers, did you see what they look like, these guys? They look like serious soldiers. They weren't playing games, and they went in there and they did a fantastic job. And Washington, D.C. is now a beautiful, safe city. The restaurants are thriving. The people are walking down the street holding their husband or their boyfriend's hand, and they're not worried about being raped or mugged or shot at. And it's been an amazing thing. And we'll do that in every city. We'll do them sort of one at a time. We'll do a couple at a time. And we have a tremendous force because, as you know, in recruitment numbers, when we put out 2 years ago, when Biden would put out recruitment, nobody would join. Nobody wanted to be in the military. Nobody wanted to be police. It was just announced this morning. You probably saw my speech over with the military, with the generals, admirals. Record numbers of people signing up for the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. I love Space Force. That was my baby. But we have record numbers of people signing up, and that includes police department, fire department. So, you know, it's been an amazing thing. Well, we're going to have another meeting next week on this. We have another great company coming in, similar kind of numbers. But we're going to show you some 1,000% drops in prices. There's never been anything like this in the history of medicine. And it's an honor. And Albert, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody behind me, because you are a great team. We have a great team. Everybody says you have a great cabinet. It's a great team. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Breaking news. They're back.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in.
Medication directly to consumers through a new website that's called Trump RX. The company won't face pharma-specific tariffs as long as it invests in U.S.
Like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in. Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, you guys.
The economy's doing well. And what happened? The Democrats want to shut it down. And they want to shut it down because they want to give billions, ultimately trillions of dollars to illegal migrants, people that came into our country illegally. Some of those people are criminals, but they came into our country illegally, and they want to give them the essential over years, trillions of dollars, and our people aren't going to stand for it. They also want to have open borders. They want to have men and women's sports. They want to have transgender for everybody. These people are crazy, the Democrats. So if it has to shut down, it'll have to shut down. But they're the ones that are shutting down. We'll continue to talk to the Democrats, but I think you could very well end up with a closed country for a period of time. And we'll take care of the military, we'll take care of Social Security, we'll take care of the things that we have to take care of. A lot of the things that Democrats fight for, which in many cases aren't very good things, will not be able to be paid.
Since he took office, President Trump has taken a meat axe to our healthcare system. It's vicious, it's cruel, it's mean. People are sicker, people live less long because of what Trump has done. $1 trillion in healthcare cuts, 15 million people kicked off health insurance, decimating rural healthcare systems, shuttering hospitals and clinics. Healthcare is less accessible and more expensive for millions of Americans. It was one of the great achievements of the last 2 decades. And Trump is undoing it with his Republican colleagues. And why are they doing all this? To give billionaires a tax break. We're now facing a cliff on ACA tax credits. Millions of Americans and small businesses who rely on the ACA premium tax credit are going to see their health care skyrocket, their costs. On average, premiums will increase a shocking, listen, 93%, almost double, if the tax credits expire. 24 million Americans, including about 5 million people who will lose their coverage entirely. And when it's 24 million Americans, it's many more people who are affected, because that's direct people. But what about their families and all of the people who depend on them? So it's a huge number of people.
Issue at this point. We have been hard at work the last couple of weeks preparing for a possible government shutdown. Our chief of staff has this as a major work stream. The good news is, again, we got a lot of sort of stuff that's on the shelf for how this works. We're in close coordination with other agencies, with other components of the federal government, and we're crunching the numbers right now to see how much funding does the FCC have, when exactly do we have to shut down if there's a lapse.
The U.S. is just hours away from a potential shutdown. The Congress has just a few hours left to avoid the disaster. But why is the U.S. government facing a shutdown? What does this mean for the U.S. economy? Introducing Liver Novo Omni.
Like the video, like the video.
Here's the latest. U.S. Democrats and Republicans have failed to reach a deal on averting a government shutdown. The U.S. Congress is thus locked in a continuing resolution to fund federal agencies past September 30. There is a difference between the House and Senate, notably in areas of health care funding and other program changes. Result, the current U.S. government funding expires on September 30. How likely is a shutdown? What is the possibility that Donald Trump's government may come to a standstill? Well, as of now, negotiations are unresolved and lawmakers have traded short extensions and demands. Several analysts believe that a shutdown is indeed possible if no compromise is reached before midnight of September 30. While political leaders have been saying that they intend to avoid a shutdown, an agreement over a continuing resolution is not in sight, thanks to senators, as they are struggling to agree on spending levels, with some wanting to maintain current funding, even as others push for increased or decreased allocations. Moreover, the current political climate is such that there are significant partisan divisions within Democrats and Republicans to find common ground on a CR. There are internal divisions within the Democratic Party regarding funding levels for different sectors, such as healthcare, education, and defense.
We are ready, we are willing, we are able to find a bipartisan path forward and reach a spending agreement that actually keeps the government open. What meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their safety, and their economic well-being, related to lowering the high cost of living, as opposed to allowing tens of millions of Americans to experience dramatically increased health costs. What we will not do is support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. Over the last several months, Republicans have created a healthcare crisis in the United States of America, largest cut to Medicaid in American history, triggering the possibility of a $536 billion cut to Medicare if Congress does not act, because of what happened with the One Big Ugly Bill. Republicans have refused to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and as a result of that, millions of working class Americans are going to experience skyrocketing premiums, copays, and deductibles at a time when America is already too expensive. Hospitals are closing. Nursing homes are closing. Community-based health centers are closing because of what Republicans have done in their One Big Ugly Bill. The Centers for Disease Control are under attack in the appropriation bill that Republicans have put forth in this month. The National Institute of Health under attack because of what Republicans have done in their appropriations bill this month. And they're limiting the ability of children and families to get vaccines. This is a five-alarm fire in terms of the Republican-caused healthcare crisis. And that's why Democrats are determined to turn things around.
Some of the riders that Donald Trump's Republicans are pressing for include permanent extension of 2017 tax cuts, border security funding, healthcare funding cuts. Republicans have proposed cuts to healthcare programs, which Democrats strongly oppose, and tariff authority, which prevents Congress from blocking emergency declarations that allow President Trump to impose tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and potentially other nations. Well, the immediate impact would be that thousands of federal workers could be furloughed or required to work without pay. Some services pause, others continue. Primarily essential services remain. Airlines warn a shutdown could slow flights. Controllers and TSA will have to work, but without pay. Training and certification work will halt, possibly causing delays. Past shutdowns hit U.S. GDP slightly. Lost pay, slowed government contracts, delayed permits and inspections. The 2019 partial shutdown showed measurable drag on activity. Some benefit programs continued. For example, Social Security checks already authorized, but others include new processing, claim reviews, certain grants can slow. But is this the first time the U.S. is staring at a shutdown? Not really. Congress has flirted with shutdowns several times, but actual multi-day shutdowns have been fewer. Since 1977, there have been 10 shutdowns. In the last 5 years, there were close calls and short funding fights, but not a full year shutdown. Why does this happen every year? A shutdown isn't automatic. It's a political outcome of Congress not finishing appropriations by the fiscal year end, September 30. Leaders attach policy riders or use CR negotiations to extract political wins.
We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about healthcare policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, everyone. Please hit the subscribe button. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hitting subscribe if you already hit subscribe. Let's continue.
All three branches of government is simply powerless in this new government shutdown. Boy, when will they? This is just another day. Today is day one of the shutdown in our federal government, and while the pain is already being felt by many, members of the Trump administration are working tirelessly to find common ground that will bring an end to all of this.
Democrats in Congress have officially shut down the United States government.
Wow, I haven't seen a white woman play the victim card like that since some black people tried to have a barbecue in the park. But yes, the fact remains that while Republicans control branches of government and Donald Trump has never met a section of the Constitution he wouldn't trample over, there is simply nothing that Republicans can do to fix this. Now, at the heart of this debate is the position from Democrats who want to extend the ACA subsidies that are already in place but are set to expire at the end of this year, which would mean an increase in premiums for tens of millions of Americans as far as their health care is concerned. Democrats are not looking for anything extra, merely a continuation of these subsidies, which benefit millions of lower and middle-class people in blue and red states. But the Republican position is...
What they have done instead is to shut down the government because we won't give billions of dollars to healthcare funding for illegal aliens. That is what is actually happening.
Hold on. You're saying that the Democrats, in their meeting with you and the president, said, we will only open the government if you give billions of dollars of healthcare funding to illegal aliens?
They said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for healthcare for illegal aliens. That's a ridiculous proposition.
Yes, I agree. That is a ridiculous proposition. It is also a ridiculous lie. If you go to the ACA's own website, which, by the way, is managed by Trump's federal government, it says, quote, undocumented immigrants can't get marketplace health coverage. And that's a point that's been proven time and time again. Not a dime of federal funds for healthcare are available for undocumented immigrants. So where did this lie come from? There's no way that all of these people would stake their credibility on a bald-faced lie. Okay, bad example. But surely there is some basis for this talking point, right?
1.4 million illegal aliens being on Medicaid, particularly Medicaid expansion, is a CEO, Congressional Budget Office number. I didn't make it up.
Yeah, he didn't make it up. He just made some of it up during a televised congressional hearing. Here's what Representative Griffith is referencing. The fact that 1.4 million lawfully present immigrants are expected to lose health coverage due to the 2025 tax and budget law. Keyword, lawfully present immigrants. See, when you change just a few small words, it makes a world of difference. Like when I say Congressman Griffith is pretending to be a dumb asshole, when in reality, he is a lying asshole. See, tiny change, big difference. The issue here is that even though the reality is that 1.4 million lawfully present immigrants will lose health care, along with the millions of U.S. citizens who will also lose health care, the GOP refuses to acknowledge their lawful status, so they dub these people as illegal, apropos of nothing, by fiat, which is not how life works in a democracy. I mean, just because I think Stephen Miller is a demonic parasite sent from the netherworld to that doesn't take away his legal status in this country. But I suppose expecting Republicans to care about what's real and what isn't is a fool's errand at this point, considering they find not real things hilarious.
The president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer recently. You said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders, but what message does that send? Is it helpful just to post pictures of Leader Jeffries and sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun.
Come on, guys. This is Donald. I have a great sense of humor. Trump we're talking about. He loves comedy. Kimmel, Colbert, SNL. There's only one time in Trump's White House, and that is laughter o'clock.
The White House is firing back at Comedy Central South Park after the season premiere. The episode Wednesday included a scene showing President Trump lying in bed with Satan, who also had a previous relationship with Saddam Hussein on the show. On Thursday, a White House spokesperson issued a statement saying, quote, South Park hasn't been relevant for more than 20 years.
Which is why we, the White House, are issuing a statement about this cartoon, because of its total irrelevance. Look, the essential question which needs to be asked of the Republican Party is, what do they believe is the responsibility of government? Also would love to ask if Russ Vought and Brendan Carr are actually the same person, because we've never seen them in the same room together, and I find that extremely concerning. But if we have to focus on one question, let's stick with, what do Republicans believe is the federal government? Because clearly, they don't believe it should be to provide Americans with health care. In their one big beautiful bill, Republicans cut $1 trillion worth of health coverage for people. They kicked 17 million Americans off of Medicaid and have put the elderly in this country in peril by not simply gutting Social Security, but by tarnishing the reputation of the entire program, falsely claiming that millions of dead people were receiving benefits. And Republicans clearly don't believe the government should help our nation's most vulnerable with food assistance, because if they did, I don't think they would have cut $230 billion from the SNAP program. Republicans don't believe the government should put federal dollars toward education, because if they did, I doubt they'd want to dismantle the entire education department. For all the love Republicans claim to have for our military, it clearly doesn't extend to taking care of them, because if they did, they probably wouldn't have fired 10,000 veterans from the VA. So while the GOP clearly thinks it is abhorrent to spend federal dollars on our nation's most vulnerable, and they are willing to shut down the government before helping them, let's remind ourselves which government expenditures they didn't take issue with. The $1 billion retrofit of a Qatari jet for Donald Trump, Republicans didn't seem to flinch on that one. The millions of dollars it costs to fly in our nation's top military personnel so that they can be present for this historic lecture. It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look.
If you're over 45 and
Like the video, like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Like the video, like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Let's get the likes up, you guys. Double tap the screen, get the likes up. Double tap the screen to get the likes up. Let's continue fair use reaction clip.
And leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. Yup, appearance matters. And when you address career admirals and generals like they're first timers at your CrossFit gym, you give the appearance that you're not cut out for the job, and then it reflects poorly on the entire organization. But the GOP didn't have a problem with the price tag for that speech. Or how about the trillions in tax cuts handed out to the wealthiest people in this country? Nope, Republicans were so proud of doing that, they gathered around Dear Leader to watch as he used his tiny little fingers to sign that bill into law. The reality is, the Republican Party feels it is the responsibility of the federal government to take from our nation's most vulnerable and give it to our country's most fortunate. But they can't say that out loud, because that would make them look like selfish, money-grubbing assholes. So again, they start a culture war rooted in a completely fabricated idea.
Billions of dollars to healthcare funding for illegal aliens. They wanted to give healthcare to illegal aliens.
free healthcare for illegal aliens.
See, saying healthcare for illegal aliens 3 times is kind of the same thing as saying Beetlejuice 3 times, except instead of him appearing, all we get is a xenophobic narrative that further fuels hatred and division in our country. And you gotta think Lauren Boebert is not gonna stroke someone off to that.
If you're bored, go on your channel and do you. Be kind in the comments. We don't play over here. Be kind in the comments. We're talking hot topics, trending topics. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Actually, wrong question. The Republican Party does not care about providing assistance to anyone, except for those who need it least. Or maybe I'm wrong and
The president's joking, and we're having a good time.
totally. Great time.
Like the video. Like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue.
If we're breaking the law. And look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do.
They're not eligible for the healthcare subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their healthcare?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law. And look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came in.
I want to be crystal clear about what's happening here. Trump and Republicans are careening this country toward today. The Democrats, who who are in the minority have settled on one thing as a red line in exchange for their votes: to extend ACA, the Affordable Care Act subsidies, so that healthcare costs for 20 million Americans do not increase 75 to 100%. Seems like a reasonable ask, an ask that would also benefit Republicans in red states, which I'll get to in a moment. And even though Trump needs Democratic votes to keep the government open, he is sitting here pretending that what the Democrats are asking for is healthcare for undocumented immigrants. Here's the deal. This is a bald-faced lie. I'm going to say this unequivocally. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible for healthcare plans on the ACA marketplace. They are not eligible for ACA subsidies, and continuing those subsidies does not afford a single undocumented immigrant healthcare, period. In other words, Trump is just that desperate to prevent Americans from having affordable healthcare that he will straight up lie about it. And as I mentioned before, it's not just Democrats who he's hurting here. In fact, it is disproportionately Republicans. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, enrollment in marketplace plans reached 24.3 million for 2025, up from 11.4 million in 2020. That's growth of 113% for those 5 years, the researchers said. Almost all states have seen some level of increase since 2020. However, there are 6 states where enrollment more than tripled, and all were won by President Donald Trump in the 2024 election. The highest increases were in Texas and Mississippi, where enrollment grew by 255% and 242% respectively. In Louisiana and West Virginia, enrollment increased by 234%, while Georgia saw an increase of 227%. Enrollment rose in Tennessee by 221%. Overall, the study found that enrollment grew by 157% on average in states won by Trump, while it increased an average of 36% in states carried by former Vice President Kamala Harris. Enrollment on the exchanges has more than doubled in 20 states since 2020, according to the report.
This is Sundays for Dogs. Sundays is huge.
Like the video, like the video. Let's continue.
Trump will screw over Republicans in need of health care, all because he wants to make this into a pretend fight against the Democrats, when in reality, he is screwing over his own voters. There's also a financial reason that Trump is hell-bent on making sure that healthcare is stripped away. Think back to the original budget fight earlier this year. Trump and Republicans handed a massive tax cut to millionaires and billionaires. It blew a huge hole in the deficit. In order to offset that hole, Republicans needed to make spending cuts. So where did they make those cuts? They took a $1 trillion axe to Medicaid and food stamps and other healthcare costs. This way, they could enact the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich and not create as large of a hole of the deficit as they would have without these healthcare cuts. Granted, there's still a $4 trillion deficit, but as far as Republicans are concerned, that's better than $5 trillion, and it's worth it if it means they get their precious tax cut. And so what this tells us is that Republicans are perfectly willing to strip healthcare from the most vulnerable Americans if it means that they get to keep just a little bit more wealth for themselves. Cutting these ACA subsidies is merely an extension of exactly that line of thinking. In fact, I spoke with Elizabeth Warren about that today. Here's what she had to say.
So I think there are 2 answers to this. One answer is just straightforward, and that is last spring when they were negotiating the deal. They wanted to do $1 trillion, that's with a T, $1 trillion in tax cuts for a handful of billionaires and multi-millionaires and billionaire corporations. And because they had other stuff running in there, they were going to run up the federal deficit by trillions more. So they looked around and they said, okay, where can we cut? And they decided the place they could cut was on healthcare. Yeah. So the money that's being taken out of the healthcare system, no surprise, is right at $1 trillion. And that's the money that's going over to the billionaires. But I want to make a related point. It's definitely about the money, and they just didn't want to have to face the fact that they would be upping the deficit even more. So that was part of it. But you know what part of this is? It's a fundamental question of, do you want a government that works for people? And if you really think that the job of government is just to help out the billionaires and keep the masses quiet enough that they will work in your fulfillment centers and not and pave your roads and mow your lawns and not raise any problems. If you think that is the role of government, then the Trump administration is for you, because that's the direction they're pushing everything they can. But if you genuinely think that the role of government is to be on the side of people and to try to help build a safety net for folks so that if your grandma outlives her savings and has to be in a nursing home, or your cousin has a baby that's $1 million in medical bills in the first month, or your neighbor gets hit by a bus and needs a wheelchair or a home health aid, that we can be there for each other, and government is the way to do that. So I think it's both things. They wanted to be able to give that money to the billionaires, but I think also they don't want government to work for families. And healthcare is a place, geez, what's so ironic here? The healthcare system's already broken, right? Already not working. And their answer is make it work less, make it more painful for people, make it more costly for people, make more people say government is not on my side. That's what the Republicans want.
Right, so they can use that as a pretext to say, this way we should privatize everything. We should privatize Social Security. We should privatize the post office. Not have to pay for anything. Not have to worry about spending federal revenues on these pesky little projects. This way we can keep giving ourselves tax cuts and not feel like we have to offset it with something.
That's right. That's right. There's a big plan here.
Yep. To watch the full interview with Elizabeth Warren, please check out the interview on my YouTube channel. And of course, to see more interviews or to support my work, which is and always will be 100% free, please subscribe to this channel. So I'll leave you with this. It is a message to Republican voters, independent voters, voters who are disillusioned with the Democratic Party, people who are not voting at all. I want you to realize that this is not a Republican versus Democrat fight. Donald Trump wants it to be red versus blue, but it's not. This is a billionaire who is trying to take your healthcare away by pitting you against brown people who are not even eligible for healthcare subsidies in the first place. He wants vulnerable white people fighting vulnerable brown people so that no one pays attention to the billionaire trying to consolidate power who has no need for ACA subsidies. Like, let's be clear here. He doesn't give a shit about the ACA because it doesn't impact him, but it impacts regular people. And so he needs to launch a culture war so that you all don't realize that he is fucking you over with this move. Do not be fooled. Do not allow him to mock you. Do not debase yourself into being his puppet while he pits working class people against each other as a way to consolidate more wealth and more power for himself. He might have nothing but contempt for you, but show him that you have respect for yourself.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Like the video, like the video. Hold on. Like the videos, you guys come in. Jeez, oh Pete. It times out if I don't touch it.
Presidential pressure, but top Democrats are defiant.
For decades, Republicans have consistently shut the government down as part of their efforts to try to extract and jam their extreme right-wing agenda down the throats of the American people.
Already, Trump is targeting blue states in a way that some Democrats claim is an abuse of power. We will get into that and more. But we start tonight with a red alert for the country as federal troops enter more cities, and Donald Trump suggests that some American citizens are, quote, enemies. Today, Trump claimed that the National Guard is now, quote, in place in Portland, Oregon. This despite local on-the-ground reporting that National Guard deployment has actually been delayed amid legal challenges. Also today, federal troops are on the ground in Memphis, Tennessee. And Missouri's Republican governor has authorized the National Guard to assist ICE with deportations across the state. All of this comes, of course, just months after Donald Trump deployed troops to Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. And it comes just one day after Trump tried to justify domestic military action, telling Pentagon leaders to, quote, handle the, quote, enemy from within. Take a listen.
I just got a $4,000 loan sent straight to my bank account. I'm freaking out, dude, because now I can go on vacation. I went to Fast Loan Direct because
like the video, like the video.
Leaders to, quote, handle the, quote, enemy from within. Take a listen.
To San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. It's a war, too. It's a war from within. We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military. National Guard. It's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control.
The Washington Post editorial board responded to these startling developments, writing simply, quote, U.S. cities aren't meant to be military training grounds, and our soldiers didn't sign up to be police officers. That is where we begin tonight. New warnings that Donald Trump's rhetoric and actions about military troops in American cities is escalating at an alarming pace. Joining me now to discuss all of this is Michelle Goldberg, columnist for the New York Times, and Molly Jong-Fast, columnist for Vanity Fair. Both are MSNBC political analysts. Michelle, let's start with you. What is your reaction to the expansion of the military's presence throughout American cities? Is this normal?
I mean, no, it's not normal. I think that, we've been talking a lot about for years, we're on the verge of authoritarianism. We might lose our democracy. I think that we're pretty well here. When you have a president stand up before the entire military and basically say, I want you or you're going to use American cities as training grounds for your foreign wars, when he declares huge swaths of the populace his enemies, when he sends the military to intimidate and potentially crush them, when you have scenes like we had recently in the immigration court building here in New York, you've seen a woman, a mother, thrown to the ground. The agent who did that was briefly fired because there was someone, I guess, in the bureaucracy who thought that was unacceptable and thought wrongly. And so the message itself is even worse because it's actually saying, no, somebody will come to your aid. There was a journalist who was taken out on a stretcher the other day. So it's getting worse and worse and worse, and we're not capable, I think, as a society of reacting appropriately because, partly because the mechanisms of accountability have shut off, partly I think the leaders of the Democratic Party have decided that it has to be healthcare, and that people don't really, that these kind of broader ideas about authoritarianism and democracy don't move the needle. It's interesting that the shutdown fight is about healthcare. Right? You can imagine a world where the shutdown fight is about why would we fund your efforts to declare war on us?
So this is my question today, Molly Jong-Fast. There was a New York Times interview with Chuck Schumer, and he's talking about, we are emphasizing that this shutdown is about the Republicans' refusal to give on the healthcare cuts. But there's so many other things that are happening right now, things that could be about bread and butter economic issues. Why is it healthcare? Why aren't we talking about the fact that the President of the United States is calling people living in blue cities enemies? Well, and the question is...
Let's get the likes up, you guys. There's about 107 in the building. Please double tap the screen to get the likes up, everyone. There's 36 likes. There's been almost 5,000 people in here. 36 likes. Let's get the likes up. Double tap the screen, please. If you're watching from a phone, double tap the screen, please. If you're watching from a tablet, double tap the screen, please. YouTube makes it easy. To hit the like is to hit subscribe is free. Let's continue. Fair use, reaction clip.
Why are they making a deal with the Republican Congress that has given up its power? Like, think about these Gotcha rescissions, right? At the end of the year, you had Republicans claw back $5 billion in foreign aid and funding for PBS after it had been signed into law. So here's the question, how do you make a deal with someone who you can't trust? And I think that is a real big problem. And you saw even Republicans on the Appropriation Committee saying that they need to have a solid, buy-in from the Trump administration if they're going to make deals. And so I think Democrats are, this has been very tough for them to they think that healthcare polls better than ICE, than this paramilitary police force that has billions of dollars in our cities. I don't know that that is a wise move. I think they can walk and chew gum at the same time. Doing two things at once. Very interesting possibility. Michelle, one of the things that the Trump administration has emphasized over and over again as it sent the military into American cities is that this is necessary to fight crime. And Democrats, I think, have responded in large part by pointing to statistics that show that, in fact, there isn't a crime problem. Is that missing the moment and messaging the wrong kind of thing?
Well, I don't know that pointing to statistics is going to convince anybody, especially because the people who are actually in these cities are by and large not voting for Republicans, right? People outside them are not going to listen to Democratic statistics.
And it feels like it's about making the divide between the urban and the rural even more profound.
Right. I mean, my parents are retired and live in Arizona. My dad tells me he has friends out there who are shocked that they come visit me because they think it's some sort of dangerous hellhole there in New York instead of a place where my middle school students can take public transportation. But I also think that, there's this message. There's also I think that they get caught up talking about crime when, in a way, that's kind of taking the administration's pretext at face value.
Yeah.
The Trump administration recently put out this memoranda describing basically the American left writ large in sort of terms of domestic terrorism, threatening to go after George Soros, threatening to go after all sorts of, kind of people who...
Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Like the video, fair use, reaction clip.
Who dissent, right? Not who are violent, but who, kind of demonize immigration officials, for example. And at the same time, you have Trump in front of the military saying, not just when he talks about the enemy within, at one point he said civil unrest. So he's talking about mass protest, and that's what this is laying the groundwork for. And if we're, quibbling about crime statistics,
very un-American about this. Law professor here was looking at the Constitution today, looking at the Declaration of Independence. One of the things that the founding fathers feared most deeply was the prospect of the government and Congress and the president being able to use a standing army against the people. And here we are. How can the party of law and order and the party that talks about the Constitution do this with a straight face?
Right, and I think it's important to remember this is not legal. We just saw this, like in California, in Los Angeles, Casa Comitatus. Like, it's not legal. So I think that, you know, Governor Pritzker has been really clear on this, and I think in a really effective way. He says, be peaceful and you document everything. And people need to document everything with their phones in a peaceful way. And you know why? Because there's going to be a moment in this country, and we've seen it again and again and again, because we've gone from backlash to backlash to backlash, where there's going to be a video where people are going to be like, oh, no, this is not who we are. And Donald Trump is very sensitive to images, too. So he will see one of those videos and be like, whoa, Stephen Miller. So, you know, I think this is, you know, and I just think it's a very scary moment in American life, but we have to know there are laws, these courts are finding these things illegal, and we have these cell phones that are incredibly powerful, and these images can travel, and I do think that we're going to hit a tipping point probably sooner rather than later.
Michelle, final question to you. We don't have time to play this tape, but we have some amazing footage of a Portland city councilor who's also a military veteran who, amidst the Trump deployment to his city, has said that even these troops have taken an oath to the Constitution, and part of it involves an obligation to do the right thing in this moment. Is that a lesson for all of us right now? Like, maybe dissent is the right thing?
I think so. I mean, I feel like it's all we have. I'm not necessarily as sanguine as Molly is about the laws and the rules prevailing, but I think you have to behave as if they will.
Like the video, like the video. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We're just talking hot topics, trending topics, what's going on in the world.
Well, welcome everybody to day 2 of the Democrat shutdown. Let's make absolutely clear what's happening here. Real pain is being inflicted upon the American people because 44 Democrats in the Senate have voted for the 3rd time to reject the completely nonpartisan, completely clean, very simple 24-page continuing resolution that we passed in the House here 2 weeks ago. Now, why did we do that? For a refresher for everyone, we have been working very hard, this leadership team, to get Congress working again. Congress has not done the appropriations process appropriately for many years now, and so we have forced the muscle memory back. Our appropriators have done a great job in bipartisan fashion, by the way, and they worked very hard and passed 12 separate appropriations bills through the committee as is supposed to be done. We passed 3 of those off the House floor. The Senate did its work. For the first time in years, the Senate passed 3 appropriations bills off the floor. Those bills don't match up exactly. So the way the system works, everybody remembers from civics, is that when the 2 chambers have bills that don't align perfectly, you put together a conference committee. That's been done. All of that work's been done very deliberately, very carefully, and as good stewards of taxpayer resources. The problem is we ran out of time because the end of the fiscal year is September 30th. So we did the logical, simple, good faith thing. Instead of loading up a continuing resolution to keep the lights on, to keep the government open so this process can continue, instead of loading it up with poison pills or gimmicks or tricks, we sent over a very simple continuing resolution that every single Democrat in the Senate has voted for in the past, just to keep the government open for the people, so that we could get to November 21st, 7 weeks, to allow more time for this process to play out. That is what happened. Now, the Democrats did something they've never done before. Chuck Schumer has led them all to vote against it. Everybody's been discussing this for the last few days. Why in the world would Chuck Schumer do a 180-degree turn? Because he said passionately, as recently as March of this year, on this same instrument, the same ZR, that it would be reckless and irresponsible and dangerous to close down the federal government. Why did Chuck Schumer change his tune? Everybody knows that now. He's trying to avoid a challenge from his left flank in his next Senate re-election campaign. And he wants to avoid the scrutiny that he received for doing the right thing back in March because the far left and the base really went crazy on poor Chuck Schumer. And so he changed his tune. And now they're trying to pretend it's about something completely different. They have made a decision that they would rather give taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens than to keep the doors open for the American people, to keep vital services, veteran services, healthcare and nutrition for women, infants, and children. They would rather not pay the troops and TSA agents and Border Patrol agents. They would rather stop services of FEMA in the middle of a hurricane season than to do the right thing for partisan political purposes. It is selfish, it is reprehensible, and it is exactly the opposite of what they have all said themselves in their own words very passionately every day until now. We've been playing the greatest hits loop here on a video right outside the Speaker's office for days. You've all seen it. Make them answer for that. Don't ask the Republicans what we should be doing or what we should be negotiating. I don't have anything to negotiate. I sent them in good faith exactly what they had voted for before. We did not put any Republican provisions in that, and we tried to make this very simple, in good faith, so the appropriations process of the people can continue. Now, there's been a lot of talk about, they say that we're making this up, this illegal aliens receiving taxpayer benefits. It's a talking point, they said. I want to remind you of a couple of key facts. Everybody can remember, I think, back to 2020. In the presidential debate for all the candidates on the Democrat side, you might remember famously they were asked the question, raise your hand, they said on the stage, if you believe that illegal aliens should receive health care paid for by American taxpayers. Every single one of them raised their hand, to great applause in the audience from the Democrats who were there. Those hands included Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, what did they do? Did they follow through on that promise? Yeah, they absolutely did. Joe Biden used executive orders, and he expanded benefits, health care for aliens in his 4-year term. That was an outrageous violation of the existing federal law, the principles of good stewardship. Those resources are not meant for people who break the law and come into our country. They're meant for U.S. citizens. And so they watered down these health programs. It was terribly dangerous. Then, so we got the majority. President Trump has returned to the Oval Office with a mandate of 75 million Americans, this big popular vote win. The House Republicans received our largest popular vote total in the history of this institution. The Republicans went immediately to work. And we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut. And we fulfilled all the promises that we made. One of the key promises that we made, because you all know that the open border was probably the #1 issue in the election cycle, was that we would end that madness. We would cut off resources, hard-earned taxpayer dollars by American citizens, not going to reward people for breaking our law and coming over the border. And we did that. The One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, included a huge provision. A big chunk of that bill was the health provisions. Now, why are we saying that they want to return or restore taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens? Because that's exactly what they did. When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, the Senate Democrats, Chuck Schumer, filed a counter proposal. Now, what was in that counter proposal? You can see it for yourselves. In fact, if you're watching at home, go to my website right now, speaker.gov. Go to the press releases tab, and you'll see it. It's listed right there. Just click on it. I'd like you to turn in your hymnals to page 57, okay? Section 2141. It is there in black letter. They filed this. This is not a talking point. This is what they proposed. They wanted to add, instead of the clean CR that keeps the government open for 7 more weeks to allow us to finish the work, they proposed a wild list of partisan priorities. Among them, they want to return $500 million to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to prop up left-leaning and biased media organizations. We're not doing that. The American people don't want us to do that. We don't need the Corporation for Public Broadcasting funded by taxpayers anymore because we're in their age of ubiquitous media. There's, 200 of you guys here? There's so many outlets. We don't need to do that. We're not going to do that. They wanted to cut, in the Democrats' counter proposal, I want you to read it for yourself. Speaker.gov. Go there, check it out. They want to remove the Rural Hospital Fund the Republicans fought so hard to put into the One Big Beautiful Bill. We set $50 billion aside to take care of rural hospitals. Why would Chuck Schumer want to get rid of that?
If you live in a Michigan zip code and has...
Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Hit subscribe, everyone. Let's continue. Continue to get the likes up. Double tap the screen to get the likes up and hit subscribe. Thank you. Let's continue.
Hospitals are in red states. You have to decide for yourself what the motivations are here, but they say they're for health care. Why would they want to do that? The other thing that they put in there is very important. And on page 57 in section 2141, not a Republican talking point, read from the Democrats' document themselves. They said that they want to repeal the health provisions of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Why is that so important? Because I want to tell you what those health provisions did. They eliminated all of the taxpayer-funded benefits going to illegals. There was an amendment that was sent over to the Senate to ensure that illegals would not be getting health care paid for by taxpayer dollars. Illegal aliens, okay? 43 of the 47 Senate Democrats voted against that. This is just a few months ago. The bill was signed into law July 4th, and we cut all of that out. Let me tell you what some of those things are. The Democrats' counter-proposal CR, the dirty CR we call it, as opposed to the clean CR, would result in nearly $200 billion being spent on illegal aliens and other non-citizens. Let me be specific. This is just a few of those, the reforms that we put in that they want to repeal and reverse. Number one, a provision that closes the California loophole. Now, that's a provision that's also been adopted by states like New York and Michigan and Massachusetts. Other states have followed, other blue states. The California loophole allows taxpayer-funded Medicaid for illegal aliens. We eliminated that in the Big Beautiful Bill. Their counter offer is to repeal and reverse that. That would cost $34 billion of U.S. taxpayer funds. Number two, a provision that prohibits Medicaid from paying more for emergency care provided to illegal aliens than it does for American patients who are disabled or elderly or children. We eliminated that in their counter proposal that they have filed that you can read yourself. They want to repeal. That would cost taxpayers $28 billion. Here's another one. Number three, they counter proposed a provision that ends the Obamacare funding for non-citizens. The cost of that repeal would be $91 billion to all of you. Taxpayers, hardworking American citizens would be funding that. A provision that repeals the Obamacare special rule for immigrants. That cost would be $27 billion for taxpayers. A provision that ends Medicaid funding for those improperly granted asylum and parole under President Biden's open borders. The cost of that would be $6 billion. I think that's actually a low estimate. You know, President Biden intentionally opened the border in Kamala Harris for 4 straight years. By some estimates, 20 million illegal aliens came from every country all around the world. A lot of dangerous people came into the country. And you know what they did? They granted them all asylum. They gave them all this parole status so that they could roll on to taxpayer benefits. We've all been funding that. Republicans said, no, that does not comport with common sense. We're going to do right by Americans and not everybody else. We're not going to incentivize illegal immigration. And that's exactly what Biden and Harris did. It's what President Trump ran on to end. And we did that. It took the president about 2 months, and they closed that border tight. We don't have that problem anymore, but we still got to deal with the tens of millions of people who are here illegally. We're working on that. So the Democrats' so-called reasonable counterproposal would reverse all those common sense reforms I just listed and more. And I don't want you to take our word for it. I don't want you to regard this as some talking point. I want you to go read it for yourselves. Speaker.gov, go to press releases. You'll see it's the first thing listed. Click on the bill and go through it yourself, and you'll see it. The results of all this would be $200 billion at least in taxpayer-funded benefits going straight to illegal aliens. Those are the simple facts. They cannot refute it. We have been making the rounds in all the media and every mainstream media outlet that we can get to over the last few days, and no one can challenge the facts that are on the paper. It's right there for everybody to see themselves. We have lots to say about that, and I'll answer some questions, but I want you to hear from the rest of the leadership team. And our majority leader who's been working really hard on this. All this is Mr. Steve Scalise. Leader?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as we mark day 2 of Chuck Schumer's shutdown, we know that there is a very straightforward way out of this. And that is for Senate Democrats to join with Senate Republicans and vote for the bill that opens up the government and allows negotiations to continue. Surely by opening up the government, again, it doesn't resolve all of our differences, but it allows us to negotiate without Chuck Schumer holding the American people hostage. That's really what's going on here. You know, we had a vote on this House floor 2 weeks ago, and 99% of House Democrats voted to shut the government down, led by their leader. Hakeem Jeffries whipped their members to vote to shut the government down. And so they're running around this town right now doing podcasts and trying to be commentators. They're doing everything but being legislators. When they had an opportunity to actually govern, House Democrats voted to shut the government down. And now that the government shut down, they're trying to blame somebody else for what they did. They voted to do this. They can get bailed out by Senate Democrats. The bill is still sitting over in the Senate. And so rather than trying to figure out who to assign blame to, what they should do is go over to the Senate, talk to their Senate Democrat counterparts and say, Senate Democrats, Chuck Schumer, open up the government again. And then let's have a negotiation over our differences. President Trump, you saw Vice President Vance as well saying, we will negotiate, but not while you're holding hostages of the American people.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Don't forget to hit subscribe, you guys. Please hit the subscribe button and thank you. Continue to hit the like button and thank you.
There are real differences we can negotiate. You know, they want to talk about all the Obamacare increases in premiums that they caused families. Obamacare is the healthcare law of the land, and it's leading to higher premiums for families. There are a lot of conversations that people can have about how to fix those problems. Throwing hundreds of billions of new taxpayer dollars to things like funding healthcare is not the answer to that problem. And it surely is not the reason for Democrats to be shutting down the government. And yet that's what they're doing. Some of their own leaders have confirmed that's why they're shutting down the government. And it's unacceptable to most American people who just want the government to work for them and deserve that. And we had a vote on the House floor. You can go look at that vote and see that over 99% of Democrats voted to shut the government down. It's a real vote that and that bill is still sitting in the Senate. We stand ready to negotiate on a lot of differences. We are in a conference committee right now on 3 of the appropriations bills, and Tom Cole and his appropriators have passed all 12 of the bills out of committee. John Thune, to his credit, changed course from the old days of Chuck Schumer when Chuck Schumer ran the Senate and didn't bring any of the appropriations bills out of committee. They're now moving those bills in the Senate, and so we can have a broader negotiation on how to properly fund government, how to properly set priorities over funding government, which, by the way, shouldn't be complicated. It's what every family does sitting around their kitchen table. They figure out how to properly budget their households. Businesses do this all the time. A small business, whether it's good times or bad, has to sit down and figure out how to make the budget work. Washington needs to do the same thing. And that means House Democrats and Senate Democrats need to stop holding temper tantrums, stop making $1.5 trillion demands for illegal alien funding, and vote to open up the government, release the hostages, and let's go get back to a negotiation over what the priorities of this country really should be. President Trump has proven he's ready to negotiate again. He brought all the leaders to the White House just a few days ago. He stands ready to resolve this, but it falls in Chuck Schumer's hands right now. He has chosen to shut down the government, and he can't articulate any...
So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. So copyright disclaimer, under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. There's about 114 in the building. Please hit the subscribe button. If 114 people subscribe today, that'll be a great day for me. Continue to hit the like button as you exit. Subscribe button as you exit. Thanks for being here, everyone. Have a great day. Be blessed. Goodbye.